Today is Thursday, May the 23rd, 2024, and welcome to episode 97 of Rural Reliance with Canny Couple and Julia.
And I'm here.
We're a small homestead family in rural Southwest Virginia that work every single day on being more self-sufficient, less dependent on outside sources, merging homesteading and frugality.
Yeah, and, some of our viewers are from the more frugal side of things instead of the more homesteading side of things. So we wanted to, talk about, is homesteading even right for you?
Right, because it's not right for everybody.
Right.
And homesteading's becoming a buzzword.
Yes.
And it's becoming fashionable. I don't know what's fashionable about homesteading.
I mean, everybody get out and play in their chicken manure. Didn't you know that was fashionable?
I mean, it's a lot of hard work. If you're multiple jobs, you're adding another layer to it. So there's a lot of hard work. So it's not for everybody. But that's not to say it's not, that it's still not okay for you.
Yep.
We would always encourage you to do what's best for you and your family.
Correct.
That's our focus. And we harp on this so much because the society today tells you need all this stuff that might not be best for you and your family. And we're all very opinionated. And we think we know what's best for everybody. And we don't. Nobody knows what's best for me and Aaron and our family. We don't know what's best for you. What we want to do is we want you to inspire you, to have you think, like, does this really work for us? So, let's talk about homesteading in general. Defining homesteading. So, if you look up homesteading, you're going to get this very idealized, very beautiful, very picturesque scenery. We all think the barn, and you have cows, and horses, and now donkeys, and all this stuff, the chickens, and the ducks, and the turkeys, and the geese. You have all these things, and you're thinking it's Little House on the Prairie. That's the image that comes to mind, isn't it?
Well, after you say that, yes.
Well, that's what everybody's talking about now. That's the thing. I'm in my Little House on the Prairie phase.
Okay.
I'm not. I do not like that show. I do not. It is so boring for me. I can't. But that's a thing. And some people, yes, it is like that, but it's not like that for everybody.
No.
But I don't think that's the only vision of homesteading there is.
No, there is many different
There's
types.
so many ways you can homestead. And that's the misconception. Because a lot of people are saying that. They would say, you're not real homesteaders for that reason.
Yep.
Because we completely disagree with that. If you are using your property to reduce your dependencies on outside sources in multiple ways, not just one. So say you have solar panels, and that's all you're doing, you're not homesteading.
No.
But if you have solar panels and you have a garden and you have a little aquaponics setup and maybe you have a flock of 6 chickens, we would call you homesteaders.
Yep.
We would say, your little homestead's very small, and that's okay. So for us, homesteading, how we defined it, is reducing your dependencies by using your property, your land, your resources, your community, because that is a resource.
It is.
Absolutely. And creating options for yourself. This is the biggest thing. That's our biggest thing. We hopped into homesteading not just to try to save money, but also to create options for ourselves. We knew we were having issues with power company. We knew we didn't want to be dependent on our grocery store. All of these things were causing us problems and issues and concerns. So we were like, okay, let's work on it. Let's fix it.
Yeah. And, like we said, our first one was creating more fruit.
Yep.
More food production. So it was trees.
Absolutely. We were just picking this evening.
Yep.
Picked another, 3-4 cups of blueberries, and we're not even in June yet.
Right.
So it's all about finding ways to reduce your dependencies by using the property that you have. And homesteading can look so different from family to family. I think of Rain Country. She's a wonderful homestead. She has a very little land to do it on. She has maximized every space. Grapes in pots. She's made this beautiful. Her back porch is beautiful.
Oh, it's amazing.
I would love to have this, but I don't think the pots could survive -0 degree temperatures.
Yep.
That's one of our problems. But she doesn't have anything but chickens. That's all she has on there. And I think even if you decide you don't want animals, that doesn't mean you're not homesteading. So let's talk about the different types of homesteads out there. So for us, there's 4 categories.
Yeah.
So we have rural, which is what we are.
Right. So outside of towns, community, long distance between your neighbors type of setting, wooded areas, stuff like that is what you usually think of rural.
You're going to have more access to some property.
Not everybody has trees like out west, for example. When you roll out there,
it's all flat.
It's all flat, no trees. If there's trees, there's a house around.
Or all cornfields,
yeah.
Something like that. But that's what we consider, like, if all you have is a Kmart.
Nobody has Kmart anymore.
Well, but I had been to one place where all they had is a Kmart before.
Well,
this was a long time ago.
Yeah, but there's only like 2 Kmarts left.
It might be the only one left. It was the only thing in the town. But if all you have is like one place to like go shopping in Europe, 20, 30 minutes away, that's real deep rural.
If you have multiple Dollar Generals around
you're rural.
you're rural.
You're rural. You are as rural as you could get. That's a joke, but it's actually legit.
It's true.
They have one. It's not even a mile. They're building another one. It's not even a mile away from the other one, and he gets a massive amount of business. Mm-hmm. So it's crazy. But so that's rural, and then you have urban. And when you think urban, like you
think more subdivisions.
Smaller pop. Still do it, and
yes.
I think that is like the smartest move.
Now, just
as long as you're not an HOA.
I was gonna say, depends on what your HOA is gonna allow you to do.
But put up as big of a privacy fence as you can. What they'll allow you to do.
Yep.
So that's the problem. So I would, if you're in an HOA, this is not the time to sell. I know it's not the time to try to get out and sell or move, but if you're thinking about it, you're going to be hard pressed, depending on how your HOA runs. I know a lot of them run really well, but a lot of them don't.
Right.
It's a lot of rules.
Most of them are not going to allow you to have chickens, if nothing else.
But you might be able to do a lot of container gardening. If you are in an
true.
HOA, that is an option. You could do container gardening. You could put them in pots, things like that in your backyard. Like I said, I would do a privacy fence or something. Mm-hmm. Pop one of those up. So urban. And when I think of urban, is it Epic Gardener? Is he the one that
yes.
He's right next to the road? Like he has no grass, and I think he is he is a beautiful.
He's got amazing.
I mean, he's an amazing setup. He has no grass. He never has to weed eat.
No.
Like I would kill to have this setup, but that is not anywhere near possible. Urban, you're going to be much smaller. Think an acre, 2 acres.
That's probably even pushing it.
That's
right
probably
there.
pushing it.
You're probably closer to
acre and a half,
fourth,
mm-hmm.
or less.
Then you have large scale and small scale. Large scale is going to be easier to do in rural areas. You can get bigger swatches of land. You could probably buy an old farm easier. Small scale, you can really do that anywhere.
Yeah.
I will tell you, if we were looking for property now, I don't know if we would go with as much as we currently have. I would say 5 acres would probably be my maximum. He would disagree with this. I would not, because it's a lot to manage.
Well, it depends on how much is wooded, etc.
How much is wooded and everything.
But if you were talking, that much flat land that you had to maintain, yes, it would be hard to maintain.
It would be so hard to maintain. If it's all clear, flat, I would, you can do a lot with an acre. You really can. There's so many good ideas, mm-hmm. good plans out there. Now, if you have an existing structure on there, you have to work with it. That's the other thing you have to think about. You have to be careful about what you plant. A lot of people don't talk about roots grow. And if you have lines, you better be aware of that.
Yes, know where you're, especially if you got electric underground,
water lines, all of that, septic.
One.
If you have a septic tank, all of these you have to know because those roots will grow.
Yep.
And they can cause issues. That's a big problem that we have out here, but we are that was one of our big things. We're very aware and we're very careful about it. So just be cautious of that. But those are really the types of homesteads.
Those are
the ones with the bigger types.
Those are the 4 main types you'll hear most people talk about.
Large scale, small scale, urban, or rural. Depending on where you are and how big you want to go. I would say we're kind of like small to medium, mid-size.
I say we're small.
We're small. We don't. Yeah. Even though we have a lot of property, at this point in time, we're not
utilizing.
We're not.
Right.
And we have not decided like where like our paintball field is. That's what we call it. It was an old paintball field. What we even want to do with that part of the property. Like we have no idea. We've talked about possibly putting in a pond or doing other things with that, but it's just one of those things where it's way down the list of priorities.
Right. You know, we're focusing on the acre at the moment.
Yep. Right here. What do we do? How do we utilize this? And then we go out. So once we get this area fixed, we get our prep set up the way we want them. I have my outdoor washing station, our outdoor shower, our the lily pad set up. Then we're going to move to a little swatch of property that is around our trees and figure out what we want to do with it. And then from there, maybe the top of the hill around the tree line. And then from there, the paintball field. It's just a lot of different moving pieces, parts we have to think about. But and the front yard. The front yard to do. Okay, so we've talked about what we think homesteading is. And a lot of people would disagree.
Some
the
would.
Dictionary will disagree.
Yeah. I mean, this is just a good example for people who's not from the homesteading world. You know, like what some good examples are.
And you know, we feel homesteading can be much more simplified.
Yes. It
can. We tend to overcomplicate and overthink these things, and it is going to be super hard to get yourself 100% self-sufficient.
Right. I mean, in today's society, it's going to take...
Well, even back then, they went to buy flour.
Right. I mean, you know, being able to...
cover the majority of your needs was the goal.
You're going to have a big family.
Yeah.
To do everything, in all honesty. I mean, and most people don't have... And
a lot of land. I can't grow enough oatmeal for us for a year.
Right.
That's not feasible.
Yep.
I cannot. I can't process it with everything else I have to do. We looked at that. We were looking at oatmeal because we like oatmeal. It's one of our favorites. It's not possible. It wasn't possible. It wasn't worth it for the amount we would have to do. So these are just things you have to consider, like where do you want to start? And it's okay to start small, but here are some questions you can ask yourself. And I would say if you answer yes to one or two of them, or if you answer, more towards the positive, leaning towards homesteading, then homesteading might be right for you. But if you only answer, it's the positive for one of them, I would say no. Make the change, add it to your preps, because most of us are preppers. If we're frugal, you tend to be, you're most likely a prepper. You just don't label yourself as a prepper.
Exactly.
Because you typically have a couple weeks at least, if not a couple months worth of food on hand in your pantry in case something happens. And that's a prep. You have flashlights. You have all these things you've bought on sale and you have them on hand. So you typically tend to be a prepper in that case. I would say that even Hope and Larry
from under the median.
I would define them as preppers because they like to be prepared for emergencies. That's what a prepper is. It's not doomsday. It is.
If you remember that show that used to come on, Doomsday Preppers.
Yeah, it is. Stuff happens. Life happens. And we have to be prepared for life. Everyday life. Your job is not guaranteed unless you are working for yourself. Even then, your wells can dry up.
Yep.
Your health is not guaranteed. Your electricity is not guaranteed. Your weather is not guaranteed. None of these things are guaranteed. We just had flash flooding this weekend in our area. We had so much rain, and it didn't even look like it was coming down that hard, but it was so continuous and constant that the low areas had a lot of flash flooding.
Like, probably 20, 30 miles from here, for example, they got 4+ inches of rain in a couple of hours, where maybe our area got half an inch. So it just depends where you're at, and stuff
and
like that.
You could be stuck. And do you have something to eat, or do you depend on going to the grocery store every day? Which, if you're frugal, you really don't go to the grocery store every day. That's
no. You just go when the sales happen.
When the sales happen, like we are once a week grocery store shoppers because we shop the sales, and that's when the circulars come out. Okay, do you want to be less dependent on outside sources? So this is probably one of the biggest things about homesteading. People go, I want to be sustainable. And you can, to a certain extent. Like,
right. It's gonna. There's still a lot of work involved in it. But let's say, hey, I don't want to have to rely on the power company for my electricity. Great.
Yep.
You know.
This is a big thing for us. You hear us talk about this all the time.
Hey, I want to catch my own rainwater. I don't want to have to buy water from the local town, or whatever. So
whatever they're putting in it.
Exactly.
Okay, next one is, do you want more direct control over your food? This was a big one for us.
This is a major one for us.
So we want to know what's being put on our food. We want that control. If I make the decision to use a pesticide on that's my decision. That wasn't a decision somebody else made. I know what's on it. I know what we've used. We really do not buy vegetables anymore. Very rarely.
Very rarely.
Very rarely. What I'm going to have to buy this year are carrots. I'm having a hard time with carrots. So what we're probably going to do is I'm probably going to try one bed next year, put a bed to rest that's beside the house for tomatoes, and use the other beds for tomatoes and see if I can figure out how to grow carrots. But for the most part, we really want to have as much control over the food that we eat every day, every week as possible. So tomatoes was a huge one for us. We eat so many tomatoes. If you've watched any of my videos, there's at least 1 or 2 jars of tomatoes used every single time, if not 4 to 5 in a week.
That is true.
And we eat them. We love them.
Yeah.
We like tomato-based foods, and that's just the way it is. Zucchini and squash, we love those. Winter squash, we love pumpkin bread. That's probably what I'm going to make you for breakfast next week. It's been a while since we've had some pumpkin bread.
Sounds good.
So all of these things just keep adding up. So I want to have as much control over my food, because when you buy organic, and this is sad, it is so much more expensive to get food that has not been treated with all the chemicals.
And at the grocery stores, most of the time when they're spraying the water
on your organic food,
on your organic stuff, it's a preservative.
Hey, found out about where did you hear about that one? It was you read it on something.
I was talking about this is what they use to put in that all the time. Like, so most people put that, so your organic's probably getting sprayed with something at the grocery store even.
Well, and organic is certified organic.
Depends.
It depends on, you can still use some chemicals. So it's just one of the things we have to look at and think about. And yes, it's very... I'm reading, and how to get a lot of these things out of our world, and it's so hard now.
It is.
It is so hard because it's everywhere. We live the lives that we live, and it's not simple anymore. We're in a room. All you had was your couch, your books, table, and a light. Now you have all this other stuff that everybody considers toxic, and it's like, how do you
get away from it? Yeah.
So that's my goal, is to strike that balance and to really work through that the best that I can. That's just one of the things. So do you want more direct control? And with that leads to animals. Do you want animals? I am under the belief that you can homestead without them. There are a lot of people that would disagree with me. I will call you a homesteader, and you can join my camp if you don't have an animal and you're homesteading. If you are growing your own food, you're working on being more self-sufficient, you're collecting your own rainwater, you're working this cycle. Mm-hmm. Even if some homesteaders might be, vegan.
Yep.
You're probably not. You might not be, but you could be. Some are.
Yeah.
So there's nothing wrong with that. If you're creating cycles on your homestead, so you're doing worm composting. That's what I'm thinking. If you're doing worm composting, which is going to break down your food scraps, which you're going to use to make compost and to put fertilizer on your food, you're creating this cycle, you're harvesting your seeds. To me, you are creating a sustainable, viable environment for yourself.
Yeah.
Would you not agree with that?
Oh, I totally agree.
So we are of the camp of anybody can homestead.
Yeah.
Anybody.
But I mean, when we're talking about animals, you need to think this through.
You really do. Don't jump on the bandwagons.
Don't
be like the goats.
Don't look at the TikToks and stuff and be like, oh, well, I've got to have a horse, a cow, everything right now. No, you don't. And
Add it
then,
slowly.
well, right. What are you trying to get out of it? With animals, what is your purpose for these animals?
Are they food or are they pets?
If they're pets, I don't see a need to keep them.
But we're not telling you not to
No,
have pets.
no, I'm not telling you not to have pets, but I'm talking about if you have a donkey, let's say, and all the donkey does
Is eat.
is eat, and you don't do anything with the donkey. You don't use it as a pack. You don't use it for the garden. You're not even using it to pasture an area, let's say. You just got it in the barn and it comes out in its little place and goes right back in. Why did you need that donkey?
But maybe you want to be a donkey farmer.
Now, if you're raising the donkeys to sell, that's a totally different story.
Totally different story. So when we look at this, we look at as frugality comes to mind for us so much, and it has, especially the past few years, because we have battled with this, and we've shared this with you all.
Mm-hmm.
We've battled. We really thought the mini Nigerian goats were the way to go. We looked at the mini Jersey cows, thought maybe that was an option. Then we saw the sheep 3 years ago. 3 years ago. It was 3 years ago, because we were it's when we brought Isabel home. It's when we learned about the sheep. We talked about the sheep that Billy.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, remember we looked at those as a possibility, and then as we started making pros and cons lists of the animals, for us it just the cons outweighed
the pros.
The cons outweighed the pros.
Now. Stuff can change in the future from a society standpoint that might make us shift, some of those.
And if we would probably do pigs.
You think so?
I think so. They don't require as much, and
we could easily have an area for pigs.
We could easily have area for pigs. They don't require as much, and they can go into the woods. So set their pens up in the woods, and they can get that area cleared up. So I would do one like the little smaller ones. Mm-hmm. If we were going to go with a larger animal. Mm-hmm. But when we look at what the needs of our family are, they are poultry. That's what we eat. That's what we like. That's what we enjoy. I need eggs. I can use as many eggs as I can get at the moment.
Eggs, chicken, turkey,
duck.
Hey, we like duck too.
All of these things add up. All of these things make sense for us. So some people are like, well, you don't have a cow or a goat or a sheep. That doesn't mean we're not homesteading. That just means our system is much more sustainable with duck, turkey, and chickens, because we're going to get manure from the duck, turkey, and chickens. We're going to get that nasty duck pond water that we're going to use to fertilize all of our trees and everything all the time.
Right.
We're going to be able to fertilize our gardens. We're going to get eggs that we're going to eat. All of these things are going to go back and forth, and we're going to create a system that's very viable for us. And that's what we're looking to build here.
Yeah.
Our systems that work for us. So that's kind of one of the things you want to look at for animals. The other thing with animals, one at a time, one a year. Nicole Sauce is really, I think I learned from her mistakes on this, and I'm not calling them mistakes. It's just, you can tell it's much more stressful. Like even a rabbit and the sheep.
Yeah. Just, you've got to learn how to handle and manage the one before you start introducing 5 or 6 different types and learning them at the same time.
Yeah.
It's just something to think about. Don't go out and get your cows and your donkeys and your horses and your chickens all at once. But if you're
small homesteading, you can do so much with chickens, rabbits, quail. These are great animals for a small homestead.
Even a semi-urban one, if you have an area that will allow all that stuff.
Absolutely.
Or you can hide that stuff.
So those are just things to think about because that's what I would do. Well, I can't do the rabbits. Aaron's against the rabbits. And
Isabel's probably against the rabbits.
but quail, our homestead, we're still looking at possibly adding quail because we really enjoy them.
They're very good.
They're very good. We really enjoy them, and they're so quick to produce eggs and everything. So for us, it really makes sense as an option.
Yeah.
Okay. So how deep do you want to go? You want to stay kind of small? You can go really deep into it, really big.
What's your long-term goal?
Absolutely.
What are you trying to do?
Like, how deep into this do you want to go? Do you just want to be able to, produce enough from your garden that you can preserve for the year? That's what we look at. Like, to me, we want to produce enough from our garden to preserve us for the year. We want to produce enough of our meat. We want to make sure our property is giving back to us and we're giving back to our property.
Exactly.
And that's kind of how we look at that. A lot of other people go a lot deeper into it. It becomes everything. And it just depends on how much.
What is your long-term approach to homesteading? What are you trying to get out of it? Are you just trying to do it for the fad? Or are you trying to do it from a sustainability standpoint? Or are you trying to do it from a profitability standpoint?
Yeah. It feels very clicky right now.
Mm-hmm.
It does. It feels very clicky. Like, I feel like homesteaders would be a group in high school and they'd have their own table. That's what I feel like at the moment. That's what it's coming across as. Like,
and then they get the seeds out of their pockets and be like, hey, you want to trade some seeds?
Seed swaps. We have a seed swap table. We'd all be in our Carhartt jackets and overalls. Well, you be in roundhouse overalls, and yeah, nobody else would sit near us. Well, it depends. You'd have.
Well, it depends if you have cow manure and chicken manure.
It would depend on which group you're at. If you're in the overall group or if you're in the flowy dress group.
True.
Which we can all be the same. We're all friends. We're all friends. We can all be friends. And the next one is you would go urban or rural. This is big. So we are a proponent of you can homestead wherever you want.
Right.
I would not tell you to go out and sell your home and buy a 25-acre farm if you've never grown a garden before.
Yes. Experiment growing in your small backyard or on your
pot.
On pots right now. Wherever you're at. If you have an apartment with a balcony on it, you can start growing food. Or
they have these beautiful tiered things that you can get now for the tiered shelving things.
Even the hydroponics arrow garden things anymore.
Anything.
You could do those in your apartment.
Absolutely. Now they have the tower. If you want the tower, I would just get the tower gardens. They're really big. They're very beautiful. They're really pretty. And you could grow your own salad for a year.
Yeah.
I mean, it makes a lot of sense.
Urban and rural. It's what do you need or what do you want to stay connected with?
If you want to go to a lot of shows and movies,
you're going to be closer probably to an urban setting.
You are. If you still want to have something of a social life. For us to go to a movie, it's 45 minutes away? 50 minutes?
Probably 40.
40 minutes away?
Yeah.
That's probably with no traffic.
No, that's
traffic.
That's with traffic probably.
So it depends on what you're looking for. There's not a lot of shows here. There's not a lot of things to do where we are because we tend to be more rural. It takes a while to get to a place, a bigger city that's going to have more attractions. Our restaurants are fast food near us.
Or country restaurants.
Or old country restaurants. So these are just things you have to look at. Are you going to have to move? What's your income going to look like?
Now here's where it gets tricky,
Or do you want to move? These are things you have to think about.
That's true too. Because, from your homestead, how do you have enough money saved up for this and to sustain you over time? Or are you planning to make money off your homestead to keep the homestead going? So you've got to think about it from different ways there as well. You can't really just, most of the time, drop what you're doing in the city, go out and buy your piece of land in the middle of nowhere without a job anymore.
Yeah.
you've got to have something going, whether it's a side hustle, or working remotely or something like that that's going to give you enough to be able to take care of it.
And I would say think outside the box, because the market's kind of getting flooded with people selling eggs and selling sourdough. And even in our little area, people are selling sourdough in the small country gas stations for a really high price.
I love to see how much they're making off of those.
Like
because
if it's selling.
If it's selling,
Because a lot of people I hear
make it.
Will make it, or they can't afford that.
Exactly. They're not going to pay that $7 to $10 at the country store for your sourdough. Now,
I mean, they may not actually be able to afford it, because when you go to rural, you're more likely going to a place these people don't have that extra money to spend.
Right. And like if you're trying to go sell at a farmer's market, you're going to have to go farther away from your rural setting to get to find those people to sell. Because like if we tried to go to our local farmer's market within 20, well, let's do 20 minutes away in each direction, then nobody's going to come there looking for sourdough. Nobody's going to come there looking for anything besides garden vegetables.
So they just set one up in a great location. They had vendors. And none of the vendors showed up. None of the vendors showed up. And they were like, okay, this is not yard sale. This is strictly farmer's market. Baked goods, home goods, your garden goods, which is a little early for garden goods.
In our area.
It's kind of early. You'd be hard pressed to get that. But you could sell live plants, things like that. Nobody showed up. There was nobody at this market. So it's one of the things to think about. For us, we actually looked at the fruit trees as that option. Because apricots and plums and these things, you don't see them in our area. So yeah, right now we're producing enough for us, but our goal is to produce enough to maybe sell as an option, because that is not something in our market and in our area.
And that's what we look at a lot of times is, okay, like even when we're analyzing maybe future businesses, what is around us that is doing that currently? How far are they away? Who are they supplying to? Stuff like that we think through, because, we're not going to go out there and make soap now, for example, to sell. There is so many people around us right now that's doing it. You're not going to make any money at it.
No. Tinctures, herbal things like that. You go to vendors, you're going to see 5 or 10. These are things you have to think about. These are things we think about.
Yes.
Because I don't want to corner a market, but I also don't want to go into a market that I have to fight so hard to get anywhere. And this is where we kind of disagree when it talks about side businesses. I lean more towards we need to focus on business ideas that not everybody's doing. What's a need that we can feel? And he's like, well, we can do this, but it's already being done sometimes. Well, maybe not in as much bulk.
Right. But I look at it too, like we look through things, we look at it from a startup cost perspective as well. So sometimes if it's a small startup cost, maybe it's worth it.
Maybe it's worth a try. Yep, absolutely. And we both look at that and we, we agree. So talking about income, now we come to the next part. And this is hard. It's a hard question. You can homestead anywhere. We will tell you that. But if you're wanting the big, fancy little house on the prairie homestead, can you afford it? Really afford it? Like, you need to write those numbers down. Right. How much debt do you currently have? All debt. All your debt. Your student loan. Your mortgage. Your car payments. Your truck payment. Your tractor payment if you have a tractor.
Or I'm planning on getting a tractor.
Yeah. All of these things you have to look at. All of these things you have to add up and look at and put those numbers to paper to see if it's actually financially feasible, if it really makes sense. If not, how can I take what we currently have and make it better? Would this have been the homestead we have chosen for ourselves? Probably not.
Probably not. We would want something with flatter land.
We would want some flatter land. We would want something maybe with a more water access or water storage, something
Great.
a little bit easier to manage and maintain, because that's the struggle we have. We're on a steep hill. It's a mountain. That's what it is.
Yeah.
So now we have to struggle through that. And we know we're getting older. So look at our front yard. That's like my best example. Steep, useless area. We're working with it. And what we're going to do is we're going to make it into a food forest. It's going to provide strawberries and apricots and all these things for us in the future, which makes the most amount of sense for us. And it's going to be better to maintain and easier to maintain as we get older. So, can you afford it? Or do you need to make what you have work for you and your family and your needs? Your real needs, not your wants. Your needs. What does your family really need? Again, we're not saying you can't have the pets and you can't have all the things that you want. What we're saying is do the slow build, the slow grow.
Right.
It makes more sense.
Maybe it is that you're able to get away from the city out in the country where your cost of living is less. You're able to afford it, and you're able to, get a few things going and still have ways to bring in income. That is a great option always.
So we really had to embrace the slow build because we've made so many mistakes.
That is
we have, because we rushed and we built this greenhouse, and the way the greenhouse is set up, it doesn't work for us. It's too hot, it's too cold. We have a hard time getting it to work.
Well, it was a Harbor Freight greenhouse too.
It was. So now we have to figure out a greenhouse situation because we really do need one.
We do.
But I need to make sure I can control the weather. I can make this work for us. I can make it better for actually growing things and have better drainage, and also keep the pokeweed out of it.
Yeah.
Which is becoming an issue.
Which it is, but when you didn't have a way for any kind of vegetation to come up underneath, you're like, how in the world did poke get in there?
It grows everywhere. It doesn't matter. But we were trying to jump into this homesteading thing and rushed and put this money here, and now we're having to work around that, or putting all these trees and bushes and everything on our property and not thinking about the future. Where are we going to put chickens? Where are we going to put ducks? Where are we going to put an aquaponics setup when we finally get to that? Where's all this going? Where
Great
it's close
question.
to the house. Well, we've kind of figured that out.
Well, we've got ideas, but
we do.
It's still a work in progress.
It is, absolutely. These are things we have to work through now. We have to rearrange things that are already set up on the property. I have a pile of really old coal that was bought years and years and years ago that's kind of in the way. And we put compost beds there that we never really utilized, and they're in the way. So all these things have to be moved now.
Yeah.
All these things have to be moved, and we have to figure out where are they going, what's the best place for them, where are we situating. And we've learned so much through our homesteading process.
Mm-hmm.
And it's still the right choice for us.
It is.
We wouldn't change anything that we've done. Well, I would change some of the things that we've done. we would change the things that we've done, but we wouldn't change the ultimate decision to homestead, because it is right for our family and our family needs and our goals of our family.
Yeah.
And that's the main question you have to ask yourself. If you answer yes to that, jump into it. Go, figure it out. How can you get off your power company grid without going full solar? Look at your rules there. Like, do you have to be connected? Can you be off connected? Are you still gonna have to pay a power bill?
Some places make you, even if you go off, just because they want their fair share.
Well, they're attached to the wire. The wire attached to your house.
Even there was one I was reading about the other day. Let's say you went full off grid in this area. They want their $30 a month just to have. I'd be mad about that one.
I would be too. These are just things you have to consider and look at and start making changes. This is what we're doing. We can't go full off grid. We can't. It's going to be too hard. He thinks it's not possible.
It could be, but it would be very costly.
It is not financially responsible for us.
Right, at this moment.
It is not. So what we're doing is we're slowly building our solar setup. Right now, we've got it set up so it will do the few things we need it to do right now.
Mm-hmm.
And we're getting it updated so it does a few more things that we need it to do.
Right.
And we'll continue to add on and continue to build that. So we're doing it the way we can. So that takes a little bit dependency off of, our needs. We are growing more food, more of the foods we need. We're putting up more of the foods we need. We're doing all the steps that we feel are the right for our family. And I cannot stress this enough. It does not matter what anybody tells you they think you need.
It's what you need.
It's what you need. It doesn't matter if people think I'm nuts. And trust me, I've got people that think I'm insane for what I do. Like, God, I don't understand. Why would you want to go back? You're in the dark ages again. No, this is life. We want this. It does become simpler. It's a lot of work, but it does simplify my needs.
Yep, totally agree.
So, what would you say, like, that's my most important thing here. Would you say that that's your most important thing, too? I would also stress you really can't homestead anywhere. Like, it could be done anywhere.
Well, I think, if you're looking at it from a perspective of you do need to build you a pro and con list and sort of get an idea of what you want beforehand. Don't just go out there and be like, oh, I found this farm, 5 states away. I'm not going to go look at it. It looks like I have everything I need in my pictures. Bye. No, don't. Think it through. Go look at it. See what is actually there. See what
I would tell you to start homesteading before you even move. Make sure you actually start.
You need to learn. You need to, practice some of these principles, read some of the books, get started to increase your knowledge before you
preserving your own food, growing some of your own food. Even if you go to like the food auctions, like I'm telling you, if I had access to those and I could get 100, 200 pounds of food for 100, but I ain't growing no garden then. I'm going to buy the food and we'll use that for something else.
Yeah.
Lordy sakes. That's an amazing deal. I can understand why people jump on that, but that is not practical for us. It's not practical for us to drive that far to go to one of those things.
Right.
It's just not. We don't have anything like that in our area.
Not yet. But the Amish community is growing in this
area. It is, but it's wild before we have something like that.
I know. But, hey, hopeful.
And then pro homesteader tip. I don't consider myself a pro homesteader, but this is a pro homesteading tip. Try what you're going to grow before you grow it.
Yes. If there's any way you can find, somewhere to buy, to try and everything.
We tried plum cocks before we bought them.
Mm-hmm.
They were amazing.
They're amazing.
Even if you try like freeze dried or something like that, try to get a taste of it.
It might require you to go to a bigger city for this to find, one of the, more natural stores that might have some of this type of stuff.
If we're over there, we'll stop at the organic grocery store and go through there. We don't really go through anything but the produce section.
Right, just to see, hey, is there something they have that we would like to grow?
That's how we knew we liked quinces. Mm-hmm. They're good. So we have a few of those. They've really not grown very tall, but they have grown and they've stayed. And that's also how we tried the plum cocks and all of those. So we knew we really enjoyed those. If we would have tried kohlrabi, we wouldn't have grown it. If we could have tried the ping tongue eggplant, we wouldn't have grown it, which would be harder to find. And then if you're going to grow something in your garden like that, do small batches, very small batches.
Yep.
So that's just one pro gardening tip.
Yeah. So, any comments? Leave below down the leave it down below, or you can send it to thecannycouple@yahoo.com, and go over and check out our link tree, which has links to all of our other content.
And as always, thank you for joining us on the Canny Couple, where we work hard, live simple, and enjoy life. Have a wonderful day.